My daughter-in-law insisted I visit a luxurious spa center for my birthday. Supposedly a heartfelt gift, but she was shaking with nerves the whole drive, not excitement. At registration, a detective blocked my path. "Sir, don't sign anything. Come with me. You need to hear this." In that instant, I realized this wasn't a spa. It was a carefully laid trap, and now she's going to pay dearly for every lie she told. Before continuing, subscribe to our new channel, where we tell stories about men who take revenge on their insolent children, sons-in-law, and daughters-in-law. My name is Walter King. I'm 68 years old, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. Spent 40 years on the bench as a county court judge before retiring 4 years ago. Always believed the law was sacred, that family bonds were unbreakable. Turns out I was half right. My son Christopher is 42. He wasn't always the spineless man I see today. I remember when he was 8, running toward me after school with that gap-toothed grin, shouting about the A he got on his spelling test. Somewhere between then and now, something broke inside him. Or maybe someone broke it for him. That someone is Jennifer, my daughter-in-law. She's 38, blonde, beautiful in that calculated way that takes 2 hours and $300 at the salon to achieve. They've been living in my house for the past 2 years. Christopher claimed it was temporary after his sales numbers dropped at the dealership. Jennifer smiled sweetly and promised they'd be out in a few months. 24 months later, they're still here, and the temperature in my own home has dropped about 40 degrees. It started small. Jennifer would ask casual questions over dinner. "Walter, have you thought about updating your will? You know, just to be safe." Christopher would suddenly find his plate fascinating. Or she'd mention, just loud enough for me to hear, "Did you notice he forgot where he put his keys again?" Then she'd turn to me with that sugary smile. "You're getting forgetful, Walter. It's okay. It happens at your age." I'm not forgetful. I'm a retired judge who spent decades memorizing case law and statute numbers. But Jennifer has a way of planting seeds, watering them with concern and watching doubt grow. 3 weeks ago, I caught them in my study. Christopher was photographing documents from my desk with his phone. Jennifer stood by the door, keeping watch. When I walked in, she didn't even flinch. "Just making copies for our records," she said smoothly. "In case anything happens to you, we'd need to know where everything is." "Nothing's happening to me," I replied. "Of course not." Her smile never reached her eyes. "But at your age, Walter, we have to be prepared." At my age. She loves that phrase. Yesterday was my birthday. I woke to find Jennifer in my kitchen, humming while she made coffee. Christopher sat at the table, staring at his phone with an expression I couldn't read. Guilty? Anxious? Both? "Happy birthday, Walter," Jennifer set a cup in front of me. "We have a special surprise for you." Christopher looked up briefly, then back down at his phone. "We've booked you a day at Serenity Springs," Jennifer continued. "It's an exclusive wellness center. Massages, treatments, the works. Our gift to you." "That's generous," I said carefully, "but unnecessary." "We insist." Her voice had an edge now. "You deserve it. You've been so stressed lately." "I haven't been stressed, but Jennifer needs me to be stressed, forgetful, declining. It fits her narrative better. Christopher and I talked about it," she added. Christopher still hadn't looked up. "You need to relax. Let professionals take care of you." The way she said professionals made my skin crawl. "When is this appointment?" I asked. "Tomorrow morning. I'll drive you." She smiled brightly. "It'll be wonderful." Christopher finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's for the best, Dad." I looked at my son, really looked at him. The man who used to defend his friends on the playground, who once stood up to a bully twice his size because it was the right thing to do. Now he couldn't even meet my eyes. "All right," I said slowly. "Tomorrow it is." Jennifer's smile widened, but her hands, wrapped around her coffee cup, were shaking slightly. That night, I lay awake in my room, listening to them talk in hushed voices downstairs. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear, urgent, planning something. I've spent 4 decades reading people in courtrooms. I know guilt when I see it. I know conspiracy when I hear it whispered through walls. Whatever Serenity Springs is, it's not a spa. And whatever they're planning, I'm walking straight into it. The question is, am I walking into a trap or setting one myself. The next morning arrived too quickly. Jennifer appeared at my bedroom door at 8 sharp, dressed immaculately in white linen that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Ready?" she asked cheerfully. I was, though not for what she thought. The drive was strange. Jennifer kept up a stream of chatter about the amazing treatments I'd receive, but her hands gripped the steering wheel too tightly. She checked the rearview mirror every 30 seconds. Not for traffic. She was checking on me. "You seem nervous," I observed. "Me? No." Her laugh was too bright, too sharp. "I'm just excited for you." I watched the city change around us. We weren't heading downtown toward the resort district. We were heading northeast, toward Scottsdale's outskirts. The buildings grew sparser. Medical complexes replaced shopping centers. "Jennifer," I said quietly, "where exactly is this spa?" "Almost there," she accelerated slightly. 15 minutes later, we pulled into a parking lot. The building before us was modern, sleek, and unmistakably clinical. Large windows reflected the morning sun. A discreet sign read, "Serenity Springs Wellness Center." Not spa, wellness center. My stomach tightened. "Here we are." Jennifer's voice was an octave too high. She practically leaped from the car. I followed more slowly, taking in details. Security cameras at every corner. Reinforced doors. This wasn't a place people came to voluntarily. Inside, the lobby was all white marble and soft music. Too soft. The kind designed to keep people calm. Docile. A woman behind the reception desk smiled professionally. "Mr. King, we've been expecting you." Jennifer nudged me forward. "Go ahead, Walter. Check in." I approached the desk. The receptionist slid papers across the granite surface. "Just some standard forms," she said. "Medical history, consent for treatment, emergency contacts." I picked up the first page. My eyes, trained by decades of reading contracts and legal documents, caught phrases that made my blood run cold. Involuntary commitment evaluation. Cognitive assessment for competency determination. Power of attorney transfer upon incapacitation. The room tilted slightly. Not a spa. A facility. A place where families send relatives they want, declared incompetent. I looked back at Jennifer. She was watching me intently, her phone clutched in her hand, waiting for me to sign away my freedom, my assets, my life. In that moment, everything clicked into place. The questions about my will, the comments about my memory, the photographs of my documents. They weren't preparing for my death. They were preparing to have me declared mentally unfit. Christopher must need money. Jennifer must have convinced him this was the solution. Get Dad declared incompetent, take control of his estate, and then what? Sell my house? Access my retirement accounts? Lock me away in some facility while they lived off my money? My hand hovered over the signature line. 40 years as a judge taught me many things. One of them, never sign anything under pressure. Another, when someone tries to trap you, the best response isn't panic. It's cold, calculated patience. I set down the pen. "I need to use the restroom first," I said calmly. The receptionist's smile flickered. "Of course. Down the hall, second door on the left." I walked away slowly, feeling Jennifer's eyes boring into my back. In the hallway, I pulled out my phone. Not to call for help. Not yet. First, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. Then I'd dismantle it piece by piece. I thought about Christopher as a boy, teaching him to ride a bike in our driveway. "Balance, son," I told him. "Find your center and you can handle anything." He'd lost his balance somewhere along the way. Let Jennifer tip him toward greed and betrayal, but I hadn't lost mine. I've spent my entire career ensuring justice was served, weighing evidence, hearing testimony, delivering verdicts. The court was my domain. The law was my weapon. Did they really think I'd go down without a fight? Standing in that sterile hallway, fluorescent lights humming overhead, I made a decision. Not in anger, though I felt plenty of that. Not in hurt, though the pain of my son's betrayal cut deeper than any knife. In calculation. They wanted to take everything from me? Fine. I'd let them think they were winning, right up until the moment I showed them exactly who they were dealing with. A retired judge who knew every legal trick in the book. A father betrayed, which was dangerous enough. But most importantly, A man who'd spent 40 years studying human nature, predicting moves, and delivering consequences. I washed my hands slowly, meeting my own eyes in the mirror. They were clear, sharp, utterly sane. Time to go back out there. Time to see what other surprises they had planned. And time to start planning a few surprises of my own. The game was on. They just didn't know they'd already lost. I walked back down that hallway like a man heading to his execution. Slow steps, steady breathing. The receptionist looked up expectantly, pen poised over the documents that would erase my autonomy. Then someone stepped between us. "Sir, don't sign anything." The man was in his early 50s, wearing jeans and a blazer. No uniform, but something about his bearings screamed law enforcement. He had the kind of face that had seen too much and remembered all of it. "Come with me," he said quietly. "You need to hear this." The receptionist's professional smile cracked. "Excuse me, sir, this is a private facility." "Marcus Hayes, private investigator." He pulled out a badge-shaped leather wallet, let her see it for 2 seconds. "And you're going to want to stay quiet while I talk to Mr. King here." He guided me toward a corner of the lobby, away from the desk. Jennifer had been scrolling through her phone, but now her head snapped up. Even from 20 feet away, I could see the color draining from her face. Hayes kept his voice low. "I work for a family who got burned by this place 6 months ago. Same setup. Loving relatives bring an elderly parent. Facility diagnoses dementia. Family gets conservatorship. Money changes hands. Except the old man wasn't sick. Just inconvenient." My throat tightened. "How much?" "They charge 15 grand per case. Half up front." He pulled out his phone, showed me a screenshot. A bank statement. Jennifer's name at the top. A transaction dated 1 week ago. $7,500 to Serenity Springs Wellness, LLC. I stared at the numbers. $7,500. That's what my freedom was worth to my daughter-in-law. Half price for betrayal. "Your son's wife paid this," Hayes continued. "We've been watching this place, building a case. When I saw her name on the intake list this morning, I came straight here." Something bitter rose in my throat. Not surprise. I'd suspected. But knowing and seeing evidence are two different things. "Why tell me?" I asked. "Because you don't deserve this, and because I'm sick of watching families destroy each other for money." His jaw tightened. "My client's father spent 3 weeks here before we got him out. They had him so medicated he couldn't remember his own name. All legal, all documented, all profitable." I looked past him at Jennifer. She was standing now, phone pressed to her ear. Probably calling Christopher. Her free hand gestured frantically. "What do I do?" I asked. "Walk away. Right now. Don't sign anything. Don't engage. Just leave. Get yourself a lawyer. Get a psychiatric evaluation from an independent doctor. Protect yourself legally before they try this again." He was right, but I wasn't ready to leave yet. "Give me a minute," I said. I walked toward Jennifer. She lowered her phone, and I watched her scramble for composure. It was like watching a mask slide into place. Concern, confusion, innocence. "Walter, what's going on? Who is that man?" "We're leaving," I said flatly. "But your treatment." "Now, Jennifer." Her eyes darted to Hayes, back to me. Calculation happening behind those blue eyes. How much did I know? How much had he told me? Could she still salvage this? "Walter, I don't understand. This was supposed to be a gift. Get in the car." My voice had the weight of 4 decades delivering verdicts. It stopped her mid-sentence. The drive home was silent. Jennifer gripped the wheel, knuckles white. Every few seconds she'd open her mouth like she was about to speak, then close it again. I watched her from the corner of my eye. The nervous swallow, the way her jaw clenched, the rapid blinking. She was terrified. Good. We pulled into my driveway. Christopher's car was already there. Jennifer had called ahead, warned him. I could picture it. Frantic whispers, panic, planning. I got out without a word and walked into my house. My house. The one I'd owned for 32 years. The one where I'd raised Christopher. The one they'd been plotting to steal. Christopher was in the living room, pacing. He froze when he saw me. "Dad, listen." "Sit down." He sat. Jennifer came in behind me, hovering near the doorway like she might need to run. I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become this person? This weak, greedy stranger wearing my son's face? "We need to talk," Christopher started. "About this morning. It's not what you think." "Then what is it?" Silence. "Because what I think," I continued, my voice deadly calm, "is that you tried to have me committed to a facility, that you planned to have me declared incompetent, that you wanted control over my assets. Am I wrong?" Jennifer stepped forward. "We were concerned about you, Walter. You've been forgetting things, getting confused." "Name one thing I've forgotten." She blinked. "Well, the other day you couldn't find your reading glasses. They were on my head, where I always put them when I'm looking for something. And you forgot about dinner last week?" "I was having coffee with Judge Phillips. I told Christopher 3 days in advance. He forgot to tell you." Christopher's face went red. "Anything else?" I asked. "Any other evidence of my declining mental state?" They exchanged glances, a whole conversation in a look. Should we keep lying? Can we bluff through this? What does he actually know? I let the silence stretch. Let them sweat. "I'm going to my room," I said finally. "When I come back down, I expect you both to be ready to have an honest conversation. No more games." I climbed the stairs slowly, feeling their eyes on my back. Once in my room, I closed the door and leaned against it. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from rage so pure it felt like ice in my veins. $7,500. They'd valued my freedom, my independence, my dignity at $7,500. I sat on my bed and pulled out my phone, started making a list of names, lawyers I'd worked with, colleagues who'd respect attorney-client privilege, a psychiatric practice that did independent evaluations. Because Hayes was right. I needed to protect myself legally, but he was also wrong about one thing. I wasn't just going to walk away and defend myself. I was going to show them exactly what happens when you try to cage a judge. The conversation that evening was predictable. Christopher and Jennifer played their parts well. Concern, confusion, protestations of innocence. "We thought Serenity Springs was a legitimate wellness center," Jennifer insisted. "If there's some kind of fraud happening there, we had no idea." $7,500, I said quietly. "That's what you paid them." Her eyes widened. "Just a fraction. Just enough." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Last week. Transfer from your checking account. I saw the statement." "That's impossible. That's private." She caught herself. "I mean, whoever showed you that is lying." Christopher looked between us, lost. He genuinely didn't know about the payment? Interesting. She'd kept that detail from him. Smart, in a vicious way. If this went wrong, she could claim she'd acted alone. "I need time to think," I said. "About everything. About what happens next." "Dad, please!" Christopher reached toward me. I stood up. "I'm tired. We'll talk more later." I left them in the living room and returned to my room. Through the floor, I could hear their voices rising and falling. Accusations. Denials. The sound of a marriage fracturing under pressure. The next morning, I left the house before either of them woke up. I had appointments to keep. The law office of Gerald Foster was on the 7th floor of a building downtown. Foster himself was 61, silver-haired, with the kind of sharp eyes that miss nothing. We'd never met before, but Judge Phillips had recommended him. "Best estate attorney in Phoenix," he'd said. "Absolute pit bull." Foster listened to my story without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "You need 3 things immediately," he said. "First, a psychiatric evaluation from an independent physician, not someone Jennifer or Christopher could claim you chose. I'll recommend Dr. Samantha Richardson, former expert witness, impeccable credentials. She'll assess your cognitive function, put it in writing. Second, change every password, every access point, every document they might have copies of. Bank accounts, investment accounts, property deeds, everything. If they've been planning this, they've been preparing. We cut off their access." I nodded. "And third, living trust. You transfer your assets into a trust with an independent trustee. A bank, not a family member. It protects you legally. Even if someone tried to get conservatorship, they couldn't touch the trust assets without going through serious legal barriers." "How long does this take?" "The evaluation I can schedule for tomorrow if she's available. The password changes you can do today. The trust we can draft this week and execute next week." He paused. "This is going to cost you. Richardson charges $2,400 for a full evaluation. My fees for the trust and related work will run about $8,000. Can you handle that? Yes. He studied me for a long moment. You're very calm for someone whose family just tried to have him committed. I've been a judge for 4 decades, Mr. Foster. I learned early that emotion and strategy don't mix. Right now, I need strategy. Fair enough, but later, when the strategy is in place, the emotion is going to hit. It always does. He was probably right, but later could wait. I spent the rest of that day securing every digital foothold I had. Bank passwords changed. Email passwords changed. I called my broker, updated security questions, removed Christopher from any authorized contact lists. Every door they might have opened, I locked. That evening I sat in my study, looking at my collection of antique legal documents, judgments from the 1800s, court orders signed by judges long dead. Reminders that the law outlasts individual lives, individual betrayals. Jennifer knocked on the doorframe. Walter, can we talk? About what? I made your favorite dinner, pot roast with potatoes. I thought maybe we could eat together, like a family. Like a family. The words would have been touching if I didn't know what she was really doing, trying to reset, trying to get back to normal so she could plan her next move. I'm not hungry, I said. Please, Walter. I know things are tense, but we're family. We can work through this. I set down the 1847 property deed I'd been examining and looked at her. She'd styled her hair, put on makeup, worn a soft blue sweater that made her look vulnerable, trustworthy. What do you want, Jennifer? I want things to be okay between us. I want you to know that Christopher and I love you, that we'd never do anything to hurt you. Then why did you pay Serenity Springs $7,500? Her smile didn't falter. She'd prepared for this. I didn't. I think someone is trying to cause problems in our family. Maybe that investigator. Maybe he's running some kind of scam. He showed me your bank statement. Then it was fabricated. Walter, please, use your judgment, your experience. Does it make sense that I'd do something like that? That Christopher would? The thing is, she was good. If I hadn't seen the evidence myself, if I didn't have 4 decades of reading liars, I might have believed her. The earnest eyes, the hurt tone, the appeal to logic. But I had seen the evidence, and I knew exactly what she was. I need time, Jennifer. Just give me time. She hesitated, then nodded. Of course. Take all the time you need. She left, and I heard her go downstairs. Heard her tell Christopher I wasn't eating with them. Heard the disappointment in her voice, carefully calibrated to make him feel sorry for her. The next afternoon I met with Dr. Richardson. Her office was in a medical building near the hospital, decorated with diplomas and certificates that practically wallpapered the space. She was 55, professional, with an air of someone who'd testified in court enough times to know how to document everything. The evaluation took 4 hours. Cognitive tests, memory exercises, problem-solving scenarios. She asked about my daily routine, my hobbies, my ability to manage finances. When we finished, she made notes on her tablet. Mr. King, I'll have the full report ready in 3 days, but I can tell you now, you're cognitively sharp. No signs of dementia, no memory impairment, no confusion. Your executive function is excellent. Frankly, you're sharper than many people half your age. Can you put that in writing? That's exactly what the report will say, and if needed, I'm prepared to testify to these findings. I thanked her and left. Walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat. That's when it hit me. Not emotion, not yet, but certainty. Christopher and Jennifer had tried to steal my life. Not my money, though they wanted that too. My autonomy, my identity, my right to make my own decisions. They'd looked at me and seen weakness. Saw an old man they could manipulate, medicate, and set aside. They were wrong, and now I had documentation proving exactly how wrong they were. I sat there in that parking lot, watching the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the asphalt, and I understood something fundamental. This wasn't about defending myself anymore. This was about teaching them a lesson they'd never forget, about showing them that the law wasn't just something I'd practiced. It was something I wielded, and they'd just given me every reason to use it against them. I started the car and headed home, not to confront them, not yet. First, I needed to finish building my case. Then I'd show them exactly what a judge does to people who try to pervert justice. A week passed. 7 days of careful, methodical preparation. Foster worked fast. By the following Tuesday, I was signing documents that would reshape my entire financial landscape. The living trust was elegant in its simplicity. Every asset I owned, the house on Desert Willow Drive valued at $780,000, my retirement savings of $890,000, my investment portfolio worth $180,000, all of it transferred into a trust with Phoenix First National Bank as the independent trustee. What this means, Foster explained as I signed the final page, is that even if someone somehow got conservatorship over you personally, they couldn't touch these assets. The trust is its own legal entity. The bank controls it according to your instructions. And Christopher, not a beneficiary, not a trustee, not authorized to receive information, nothing. Foster tapped the document. You're protected. I signed my name, Walter King. The same signature I'd used for 40 years on court orders and judgments. Strange how that simple act could feel like both an ending and a beginning. Over the next few days, I systematically dismantled every access point Christopher and Jennifer had built. Called the bank, revoked the power of attorney I'd given Christopher 3 years ago when I'd had minor surgery. Changed passwords on every account. Updated beneficiaries. Removed authorized users. Each change felt like pulling up a weed they'd planted in my garden. Christopher and Jennifer noticed something was different. How could they not? I left the house almost daily now. Attorney meetings, bank appointments, errands I wouldn't explain. I saw them watching me, whispering when they thought I couldn't hear. Jennifer doubled down on her performance. Suddenly she was cooking my favorite meals. Pot roast on Monday, chicken piccata on Wednesday. Saturday morning I came downstairs to find her making pancakes from scratch. I thought you might like a nice breakfast, she said brightly. You've seemed so busy lately. I have been. Anything I can help with? Her smile was practiced perfection. Errands, appointments, anything at all? No, thank you. She flipped a pancake, the edges golden brown. Walter, I hope you know that Christopher and I really do care about you. We want to help. We want to be involved in your life. Involved in my life? Involved in my assets, she meant. I appreciate that, Jennifer. She set a plate in front of me. Pancakes arranged artfully, butter melting, syrup on the side. A performance of domestic care. I ate in silence while she cleaned up, humming softly. The whole scene was so perfectly calibrated to project warmth and family. If I hadn't known what I knew, I might have found it touching. Instead, I found it insulting. Did she really think I was that easy to manipulate? That a few home-cooked meals would erase what she'd tried to do? That weekend, I contacted Hayes again, the detective who'd saved me at Serenity Springs. We met at a coffee shop in Scottsdale, far from my neighborhood. Hayes arrived 10 minutes early, already seated in a corner booth when I walked in. Mr. King, he shook my hand firmly. Good to see you upright and free. Thanks to you. Thanks to your good sense not to sign those papers. He pulled out a tablet. You said on the phone you wanted to hire me? What kind of work are we talking about? I need a complete financial investigation of my son and daughter-in-law. Assets, debts, spending patterns, everything. I need to know what they're planning, what they owe, what they're hiding. Hayes studied me for a moment. That's not cheap. Full financial background check, surveillance if needed, bank record analysis. We're looking at $3,500 a week, minimum 2 weeks. $7,000 total? To start. If it goes deeper, costs go up. I thought about Jennifer's pancakes, Christopher's guilty silence. The $7,500 they'd already spent trying to imprison me. Do it. We shook hands again. Hayes took notes on my tablet, names, addresses, account numbers I knew about, vehicle information, Christopher's Porsche Cayenne, Jennifer's Mercedes, GLC, both leased, both expensive. Give me 10 days, Hayes said. I'll have everything. He delivered in 7. The following Thursday we met again at the same coffee shop. Hayes slid a manila folder across the table, thick, heavy with paper. You're not going to like this, he said. I opened the folder. The first page was a summary sheet, numbers that made my jaw tighten. Christopher's total debt, $127,000. Credit cards, $43,000 spread across 8 cards. Auto loan on the Porsche, $51,000 remaining. Personal loan from a finance company, $33,000 at 18% interest. My son owed more than twice his annual salary. Keep reading, Hayes said quietly. Jennifer's spending patterns, $8,200 monthly average. Designer clothes from boutiques in Scottsdale. Weekly spa treatments. Restaurants where a single dinner costs $300. Country club inquiries. She'd been asking about membership at Phoenix Paradise. Annual dues, $45,000. Then the real gut punch. 3 months ago, Jennifer had met with a real estate agent, discussed selling a property at 2847 Desert Willow Drive. My address. My house. The agent's notes, which Hayes had somehow obtained, were clinical. Client interested in quick sale of elderly relative's property following cognitive decline. Anticipates listing within 6 to 8 weeks. Prefers discreet marketing. I sat back, the folder open on the table between us. They hadn't just planned to have me declared incompetent. They'd planned the aftermath. Selling my house. Spending my money. Living the life they wanted on my assets. This wasn't desperation. It was premeditation. There's more, Hayes said. Your daughter-in-law has been in contact with 2 other facilities like Serenity Springs, gathering information, comparing prices. She was shopping around? Looks like it. Serenity Springs gave her the best deal. I closed the folder slowly. My hands were steady, but something cold had settled in my chest. Not shock. I'd suspected most of this. But seeing it documented, seeing the depth of their planning, their casual cruelty. Mr. King? Hayes leaned forward. You all right? I'm fine. I picked up the folder. This is exactly what I needed. What are you going to do? I looked at him. This detective who'd stepped in to save a stranger, who'd built this case with professional precision. I'm going to show them what happens when you underestimate a judge. I paid Hayes in cash, thanked him, drove home with that folder on the passenger seat. Christopher's car was gone. He was at work. But Jennifer's Mercedes sat in the driveway. She was home. I walked in to find her in the kitchen again. Always the kitchen. Always performing domesticity. Walter, I'm making dinner. Will you be joining us tonight? I will. Her smile widened. Wonderful. It's lasagna. I know it's your favorite. It is. I went upstairs to my study, locked the door, opened the folder again and read every page, memorized every number, every damning detail. They thought I was a confused old man losing his grip on reality. They were about to discover how wrong they were, and the beautiful thing, they had no idea what was coming. 3 days later, I had all my pieces in position. The trust was finalized. The psychiatric evaluation sat in my safe, official, and irrefutable. Hayes's investigation filled an entire folder. Foster had prepared additional documents I'd need. Everything was ready. That morning, I came downstairs to find both Christopher and Jennifer at the breakfast table. Unusual. Christopher typically left for the dealership by 7. It was past 8. They looked up when I entered. Something passed between them. A glance, quick and loaded with meaning. Dad, Christopher said, we need to talk. Do we? About the house, about your finances. He glanced at Jennifer. She nodded encouragement. We think it's time to discuss some practical matters, making sure everything's in order. In order for what? Jennifer jumped in, her voice honey-sweet. For your protection, Walter. We've been worried. You've been so secretive lately, disappearing for hours, not telling us where you're going. We think maybe you're getting confused, and we just want to help. Sit down, I said. They were already sitting, but something in my tone made them both freeze. I went to my study and returned with Hayes's folder and several other documents. Set them on the table with a heavy thud that made Jennifer flinch. What's that? Christopher asked. The truth. I opened the folder to the first page. Let's start with you, Christopher. $127,000 in debt. $43,000 in credit cards. $51,000 on a Porsche you can't afford. $33,000 in personal loans at 18% interest. The color drained from his face. Actually drained, like someone had pulled a plug. His skin went from tan to an ashy gray in seconds. How did you... I hired an investigator. Same one who stopped me from signing my life away at Serenity Springs. I turned to Jennifer, whose perfectly made-up face had gone rigid. And you, Jennifer, $8,200 a month in spending, spa treatments, designer clothes, expensive dinners, all while living rent-free in my house. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Here's my favorite part. I pulled out the real estate agent's notes. 3 months ago, you contacted Sharon Mitchell at Desert Elite Realty, discussed selling my house after my anticipated cognitive decline. She even gave you a projected listing price. $780,000. Jennifer found her voice. That's not... Walter, this is a misunderstanding. Is it? Because I also have bank statements showing you paid Serenity Springs $7,500. Down payment on having your father-in-law declared incompetent. Christopher made a sound like he'd been punched. Jennifer, you told me it was only $3,000. Shut up, she hissed. Only $3,000? I laughed. Cold, sharp. So you did know about it, Christopher. You just didn't know the full price. My son put his head in his hands. His shoulders started shaking. Jennifer transformed. The mask of the concerned daughter-in-law evaporated. In its place stood someone harder, angrier, desperate. Fine, she snapped. You want the truth? Yes, I contacted that facility. Yes, I talked to a real estate agent. Because you're sitting on nearly $2 million, while your own son drowns in debt. You're selfish, Walter. You hoard your money while we struggle. Struggle? I pulled out another page. You spent $400 on a single dinner last week, $300 on a facial. You lease a $60,000 Mercedes. We deserve nice things. On my money? After trying to lock me in a facility? She stood up, chair scraping loudly against the tile. Christopher is your son, your only child. That money should be his. You're too old to even use it properly. Stop! Christopher's voice was barely a whisper. Jennifer, just stop. Don't you dare. Stop. He looked up, tears streaming down his face. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She said it was the only way. She said you were getting worse. She said... She lied, I said flatly. And you chose to believe her because it was easier than admitting you married someone who sees people as assets to acquire. I pulled out the final document, the one Foster had prepared. Signed, notarized, legal. This is a living trust. As of 10 days ago, all my assets, the house, my savings, my investments, are controlled by an independent trustee. Phoenix First National Bank. Not you. Not Jennifer. Not anyone who might have a conflict of interest. Christopher's eyes widened. You can't... I already did. It's irrevocable. Even if you somehow got conservatorship over me personally, you couldn't touch a penny of it. Jennifer's face cycled through emotions so fast I almost laughed. Disbelief, rage, panic, calculation. I watched her brain working, trying to find an angle, a way to salvage this. You did this while you were mentally compromised, she said suddenly. Under duress. We'll challenge it. We'll prove you weren't competent when you signed. I pulled out the psychiatric evaluation. Dr. Samantha Richardson, board-certified psychiatrist, former expert witness. 4-hour comprehensive evaluation completed 2 weeks ago. Her conclusion: patient demonstrates excellent cognitive function, clear decision-making capacity, no signs of dementia or impairment. She's prepared to testify to that in court if needed. The sound Jennifer made was almost inhuman, a combination of rage and defeat. You have 30 days, I said calmly, to find somewhere else to live. This house is part of the trust. You're no longer welcome here. You can't evict us. Jennifer's voice had gone shrill. We have rights. Tenant rights. You're not tenants. You never paid rent. You're guests who've overstayed their welcome. My attorney, Gerald Foster, will deliver formal notice tomorrow. 30 days. After that, if you're still here, we go to court. Christopher was crying openly now. Dad, please. I know I messed up, but please. You tried to have me declared insane, Christopher. You were going to lock me away and sell my house, and you're asking me for mercy? It wasn't supposed to go like this, she said. He looked at Jennifer with something like horror. You said it would be easy. You said he'd never know. You said... I said what we needed to do, Jennifer rounded on him. Because you're too weak to take care of your own family. Your father is sitting on a fortune while we drown, and you just smile and nod and act grateful for scraps. It's his money. It should be ours. You're his only son. You deserve—" "I deserve nothing," Christopher whispered. "He's right. We don't deserve anything." I watched this unfold with a strange detachment, the marriage dissolving in real time, the reality of what they'd done settling over Christopher like a weight. Jennifer still scrambling, still fighting, still unable to accept defeat. 30 days, I repeated. Not 31, not 32. I'll be counting. I gathered my documents and left them in the kitchen, went to my study and locked the door. Behind me, I heard Jennifer screaming, heard Christopher's voice, quieter, trying to calm her, heard something shatter, a plate, maybe, or a glass. I sat at my desk and looked at my collection of antique legal documents, cases from centuries ago, judgments rendered by men long dead, all of them reminders that justice, when properly applied, endures. My phone buzzed, a text from Foster. Documents ready for delivery tomorrow morning. Standing by for next steps. I texted back. Proceed. Outside my study, the shouting continued. Jennifer's voice sharp and accusing. Christopher's, broken and defeated. I'd given them 30 days. I suspected they wouldn't last 30 hours before this marriage tore itself apart. And honestly, that was their problem now, not mine. The next morning, Foster arrived at my door at 9 sharp. He wore a suit, not his usual business casual, and carried a leather briefcase that looked expensive enough to be a weapon. "Morning, Walter," he said. "Ready for this?" "More than ready." We found Christopher and Jennifer in the kitchen. They looked like they hadn't slept. Christopher's eyes were red and puffy. Jennifer's makeup couldn't quite hide the dark circles beneath her eyes. The air between them crackled with unspoken recriminations. "This is Gerald Foster," I said, "my attorney. He has some documents for you." Foster set his briefcase on the counter with a decisive thunk, pulled out 2 thick manila envelopes, each marked with official-looking stamps and seals. "Christopher King and Jennifer King," he said formally. "I'm serving you with formal notice of eviction. You have 30 days from today to vacate these premises. All relevant statutes and procedures are outlined in these documents." He slid the envelopes across the counter. Neither of them touched them. "You can't do this," Jennifer said. Her voice was hoarse, probably from all the screaming the night before. "This is Christopher's childhood home. You can't just throw out your own son." "I can, and I am," I said. "The property is owned by a trust. You're not paying rent. You're not on any lease. You're guests, and your invitation has been revoked." Christopher finally spoke. "Dad, please, can we just talk about this? Without lawyers, without—" "The time for talking was before you tried to have me committed." I kept my voice level, professional, the tone I used to use when delivering verdicts. "You made your choice. Now live with the consequences." Foster cleared his throat. "I should also inform you that any attempt to damage, remove, or otherwise interfere with property belonging to the trust will result in immediate legal action, civil and potentially criminal." Jennifer's face went red. "Are you accusing us of—" "I'm advising you of the law, Mrs. King. What you do with that information is your choice." Foster closed his briefcase. "You have 30 days. I suggest you use them wisely." After he left, I poured myself coffee, acted like it was a normal morning, like I hadn't just legally expelled my own son from my house. Christopher watched me, tears streaming silently down his face. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry, Dad." "You had a choice," I said, echoing Foster's words. "You made it." Jennifer grabbed the eviction notices and stormed upstairs. I heard a door slam, then another, then the sound of drawers being yanked open. Christopher didn't move, just sat there, shoulders slumped, the weight of his choices pressing down on him. "She said it would be easy," he said finally, "that you'd never know, that the facility would handle everything, and you'd just transition into care. She made it sound humane, necessary." "And you believed her?" "I wanted to." His voice broke. The debt, the pressure, the constant fighting about money. She said this would fix everything. We'd have enough to clear the debts. Start fresh, maybe save the marriage. By stealing from me. I didn't think of it as stealing. I thought, he rubbed his face, I don't know what I thought. That you wouldn't mind? That you didn't need it? I've been lying to myself for so long, I can't remember when it started. I sat down across from him, studied the man who used to be my son. Somewhere in there, buried under debt and bad decisions and Jennifer's manipulation, was the boy who'd brought me his report cards with pride, who'd built model rockets in the garage, who'd once believed right and wrong mattered. The trust doesn't include you as a beneficiary, I said. Not now. But I wrote it so that it can be amended. If someday you prove you've changed, if you get your life together, handle your debts, show me you're not that person anymore. He looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. But that's years away, Christopher. Maybe decades. You have to earn it back. Every cent of trust you destroyed. I will. The hope died, replaced by something more realistic. Resignation. I'll try. Trying isn't enough. Either you do it or you don't. He nodded slowly. 30 days. 30 days. That week passed in tense silence. Jennifer barely spoke to me. When she did, it was clipped, angry, venomous. Christopher moved through the house like a ghost, packing things into boxes with mechanical efficiency. I watched them prepare to leave, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not regret, just the cold certainty that I'd done what needed to be done. Then a week into the 30 days, Christopher came to me with news. We hired a lawyer, he said. Jennifer insisted. She thinks we can challenge the eviction. Challenge the trust. On what grounds? She's claiming you were mentally compromised when you signed the trust documents. That Foster took advantage of you. That the whole thing is invalid. I almost laughed. Almost. She's wasting your money. It's not my money. It's hers. She had savings I didn't know about. $13,000. She's spending it on this attorney. What's his name? Marcus Reeves. Works out of Tempe. I knew Reeves. Decent lawyer, not great. The kind who'd take a case, even if he knew it was weak, as long as the retainer cleared. Let him try, I said. Christopher hesitated. Dad, I told her this was stupid. That we should just leave quietly, but she's not thinking straight. She's convinced she can win. Can't or won't see the difference. He didn't answer. Didn't need to. The eviction challenge came 5 days later. Legal papers delivered by a process server. I read through them in my study while Foster reviewed his copy over the phone. It's weak, Foster said. Very weak. She's claiming undue influence, but she has no evidence. She's claiming you lacked capacity, but we have Dr. Richardson's evaluation. She's claiming the trust was executed improperly, but I have all the documentation showing otherwise. So we fight it? We let her waste her money and her lawyer's time, then we win. Probably won't even make it to a full trial. Judge will dismiss on summary judgment. How long? Court date will probably be in 3 to 4 weeks. Maybe sooner if we push for expedited hearing. I looked at the calendar. We were halfway through their 30 days. If the court case delayed things... Push for expedited, I said. I want this resolved. The hearing was set for 3 weeks later. Judge Philip Graham presiding. I'd worked with Graham years ago. Good judge. Fair, thorough. Didn't tolerate nonsense in his courtroom. When I saw his name on the notice, I knew Jennifer had lost before she'd even walked in. The morning of the hearing, I dressed carefully. Suit and tie. The same outfit I used to wear on the bench. Christopher wore ill-fitting khakis and a wrinkled shirt. Jennifer wore designer clothes that screamed, I'm the victim here. Graham called the courtroom to order. Reeves presented his case first. Claimed I'd been manipulated. Claimed Foster had exercised undue influence. Claimed I didn't understand what I was signing. Then Foster stood up. Your Honor, I'd like to present a psychiatric evaluation conducted by Dr. Samantha Richardson, dated 3 weeks before the trust was executed. Dr. Richardson is here today to testify if needed. He handed the document to the clerk, who passed it to Graham. Graham read in silence. His expression never changed. Mr. Reeves, he said finally, your client claims Mr. King lacked mental capacity. This evaluation states clearly that Mr. King's cognitive function is excellent. Do you have any evidence to contradict this professional assessment? Reeves shuffled papers. We have testimony from family members about Mr. King's forgetfulness. Hearsay and anecdotal. What professional evidence do you have? We would like to request our own psychiatric evaluation. After the fact, after your clients already attempted to have Mr. King involuntarily committed to a facility? Graham's voice had gone cold. Yes, I've read the full background here. The Serenity Springs incident is part of the record. Christopher went pale. Jennifer stared straight ahead, jaw clenched. Graham turned to Christopher. Mr. King, the younger Mr. King, is it true you and your wife attempted to have your father committed to a facility without his informed consent? The courtroom went silent. Christopher's lawyer started to speak, but Graham held up a hand. I asked you, Mr. King, not your attorney. Is it true? Christopher's voice was barely audible. Yes. And this was before the trust was created? Yes. Graham sat back. So your father, after discovering that his own family tried to have him declared incompetent and seize control of his assets, took legal steps to protect himself. And now you're arguing that those legal steps were the result of impaired judgment. No response. This case is dismissed, Graham said flatly. The trust stands. The eviction notice stands. You have 14 days remaining to vacate the property. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down like thunder. We walked out of that courtroom into bright Arizona sunshine. Christopher and Jennifer ahead of me, Reeves trailing behind them looking like he wished he'd never taken this case. Jennifer spun on me in the parking lot. Her face was twisted with rage, all pretense of civility gone. You did this, she screamed. You planned this whole thing. You manipulated everything. I protected myself, I said calmly. There's a difference. You turned your own son against me. You poisoned him with lies. Christopher stood beside her, silent, not defending her, not defending me, just existing in the space between us, broken. I showed him evidence, I corrected, bank statements, investigation reports, legal documents. If that turned him against you, maybe you should examine your own actions. She took a step toward me. Foster moved between us, a wall of professional composure. Mrs. King, I strongly suggest you leave now. Making threats in a public parking lot after losing a court case is not advisable. She looked at Foster, then at me, then at Christopher, waiting for him to back her up, to fight for her, to choose her side. He didn't. Let's go, he said quietly. It's over. They left in Jennifer's Mercedes. I watched them drive away, brake lights flashing red in the sunlight. That went well, Foster said dryly. Think she'll let it go now? Not a chance. I was right. Over the next 2 weeks, as their deadline approached, Jennifer escalated. She stopped cleaning, stopped maintaining any pretense of civility. The house became a battleground. She left dishes in the sink, food rotting on counters, blasted music at odd hours, had shouting phone conversations in the hallway outside my study, making sure I could hear every word. He's a tyrant, she'd say to whoever was on the other end. Probably her mother. Definitely someone who'd confirm her victim narrative. Throwing us out on the street, his own son. Over nothing. Over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That's what she was calling it now. Christopher tried to keep the peace. He'd clean up her messes, turn down the music, apologize in quiet moments when she wasn't around. I'm sorry, he'd say. She's not handling this well. Neither are you, I pointed out, but you're not acting like a child about it. I feel like one. A kid who disappointed his father, who threw away everything good for something shiny and fake. We were in my study. The door was closed. Jennifer was out, shopping or spa or wherever she went to escape reality. What are you going to do? I asked. After you leave here. We found an apartment. Small place in Tempe. $1,850 a month. It's all we can afford with our debt load. And Jennifer's okay with that? He laughed bitterly. Jennifer's not okay with anything. But we're out of options. Her savings are gone. Paid to Reeves for a case we both knew we'd lose. My credit is destroyed. No one will give us a better place. What about the marriage? He was quiet for a long moment. I don't think there is a marriage anymore. There's just two people stuck together because we can't afford to separate. She blames me for not fighting harder, for not forcing you to give us money, for being weak. Are you weak? I was. I let her convince me that you owed us something, that your money should be ours, that stealing from you was justified because you're family. He looked at me directly for the first time in weeks. I was weak. I'm trying not to be anymore. Good. 3 days before the deadline, Jennifer made one final play. I came home from a dentist appointment to find a woman in my living room, late 50s, professional attire, carrying a tablet and a folder. Mr. King? She stood up. I'm Patricia Morales from Adult Protective Services. I received a report of possible elder abuse in this household. My stomach dropped, but my face stayed neutral. 4 decades on the bench taught me how to hide reactions. Elder abuse? Yes. The report alleges that family members are being forced out of their home by threats and manipulation, that you may be under the influence of unscrupulous advisors, that your mental state has been declining. Jennifer, this was Jennifer's move. If she couldn't win in court, she'd try to win through investigation. Get the state involved. Muddy the waters. Come in, I said. Let's talk. We sat at my kitchen table. I offered her coffee. She declined. Mr. King, I need to ask you some questions about your living situation, your relationship with your son and daughter-in-law, and your recent legal actions. Of course. For the next 40 minutes, I answered every question with calm precision, explained the Serenity Springs incident, showed her the psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Richardson, explained the trust, the eviction, the court case. She took notes on her tablet, asked for copies of documents, interviewed me about my daily routine, my ability to manage finances, my social connections. Then she asked to speak to Christopher and Jennifer. They came down from upstairs. Jennifer had clearly prepared for this. Hair perfect, makeup flawless, expression carefully arranged into concern. We're so worried about him, she said, voice trembling slightly. He's not himself lately, making rash decisions, pushing away family. We just want to help him, but he won't let us. Morales took more notes, asked them about the eviction, the trust, their relationship with me. Christopher barely spoke. Let Jennifer carry the conversation, but I saw the way he looked at her while she performed, like he was seeing her for the first time, really seeing her. After an hour, Morales thanked everyone and stood up. I'll be filing my report within the week, she said. Mr. King, I may need to follow up with additional questions. Any time, I said. After she left, Jennifer was triumphant. See? The state is looking into this. They'll see what you're doing. They'll stop you. Will they? I asked mildly. You can't just throw out family members. There are laws, protections. There are. And I've followed every one of them. You, on the other hand, attempted fraud, elder abuse, tried to have me falsely committed. Which of us do you think the state will protect? Her confidence flickered, just for a moment. Then she stormed back upstairs. The report came 6 days later. I read it in my study while Foster listened on speakerphone. After thorough investigation, I read aloud, I find no evidence of elder abuse, undue influence, or mental incompetence. Mr. Walter King appears fully capable of managing his own affairs and making independent decisions regarding his property and assets. The eviction of family members appears to be in response to documented attempts to defraud and deceive Mr. King. This case is closed with no further action required. Foster's laugh came through the speaker. She tried to weaponize the system against you, and it backfired. Beautiful. Poetic justice, I agreed. The final day arrived. Moving trucks came at 7 in the morning. I watched from my study window as Christopher and Jennifer loaded their lives into cardboard boxes. He worked steadily, methodically. She supervised, pointing and criticizing, doing minimal actual labor. By 3 in the afternoon, they were done. The trucks pulled away. Jennifer's Mercedes followed. Christopher stood in my driveway, keys to my house in his hand. He looked up at the window where I stood, and our eyes met. Then he got in his car and drove away. The house was silent, empty. Mine again. I walked through the rooms they'd occupied. They'd left them clean, at least. Christopher's doing, undoubtedly. No damage, no final spiteful gesture. In my study, I pulled out the folder containing all the documents from this ordeal. The psychiatric evaluation, the trust papers, the court judgment, the APS report. I'd won. Completely. Totally. They'd thrown everything at me. Manipulation, legal challenges, state investigations, and every single attack had failed. But as I sat there in the silence of my reclaimed home, I didn't feel victorious. I felt tired and alone. and wondering if this was really how family stories were supposed to end. The weeks that followed were quiet. Too quiet. I'd gotten used to the sounds of other people in my house. Footsteps overhead, doors closing, the hum of voices. Now there was only silence. I settled back into solitude. Morning coffee on the back patio. Reading legal journals in my study. Tending to my collection of antique documents. Cataloging pieces I'd neglected while Christopher and Jennifer had been here. But I also watched, waited, wondered how they were managing. Hayes, who I'd kept on retainer, provided updates without me asking. Part of his service, he said, making sure there were no surprises coming my way. They moved into a place in Tempe, he told me over the phone one morning 2 weeks after they'd left. Small apartment complex, $1,850 a month. Both their cars are still leased. They're bleeding money on those payments. And the marriage? Falling apart, from what I can see. Lots of shouting matches in the parking lot. Neighbors have complained twice about noise. I thanked him and hung up. Poured another cup of coffee. Tried to tell myself I didn't care. But I did. Not about Jennifer. She'd made her choices and could live with them. But Christopher was still my son, even if he'd betrayed me, even if I'd had to protect myself from him. 2 months passed. Summer settled over Phoenix like a blanket of heat. I kept my routines, my quiet life. Started having lunch with Judge Phillips and a few other retired colleagues once a week. Reconnected with friends I'd let drift away while dealing with the crisis. Then one morning in late July, Hayes called with different news. Thought you'd want to know, he said. Serenity Springs is gone. State shut them down last week. Full investigation. Turns out they'd been running this scam for 3 years. Dozens of families. The owners are facing fraud charges, elder abuse charges, conspiracy charges. They're looking at serious prison time. I set down my coffee cup carefully. How many people? At least 47 victims that they've identified so far. Could be more. I've been working with the prosecutors, providing what I found during your case. Your daughter-in-law's payment to them is part of the evidence. Will Jennifer face charges? Hard to say. She paid them, but she didn't run the operation. Prosecutors are focused on the facility owners, but it's possible she could be called as a witness. Maybe face some lesser charges if they decide to go after everyone who tried to use their services. After he hung up, I sat in my study for a long time. 47 people. 47 families torn apart by greed. 47 elderly people who'd almost lost everything. I'd been lucky. Hayes had been there. I'd had the presence of mind not to sign. I'd had resources to fight back. How many others hadn't been so lucky? In August, a letter arrived, handwritten, Christopher's handwriting. I almost didn't open it, almost threw it away. But curiosity won. The letter was short, no justifications, no excuses, just acknowledgement. Dad, it began, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect anything from you anymore. But I needed to write it anyway. I was wrong. Not just wrong, I was a coward. I let Jennifer convince me that you owed us something, that your money should be ours, that what we were doing was justified. It wasn't. It was theft, attempted fraud, elder abuse. I can call it what it is now, even if I couldn't then. I've lost everything. The cars are being repossessed next week. The apartment is too expensive. Jennifer and I can barely stand to be in the same room, but I didn't lose everything because of you. I lost it because of my choices, because I chose greed over integrity, because I chose an easy lie over a hard truth. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I haven't earned it. Maybe I never will. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I did, what I tried to do, and I'm ashamed. Christopher. I read it twice, then filed it away in a drawer. Didn't respond, wasn't ready to. But I didn't throw it away either. Summer turned to fall. The heat broke. Phoenix nights became bearable again. I heard through Hayes that Christopher and Jennifer were officially separating. She'd filed for divorce. They were fighting over the debts, each trying to stick the other with the bills they'd racked up together. She's moving to California, Hayes told me in early September. Her sister lives there, somewhere near San Diego. Christopher's staying here, from what I can tell. Moved to an even smaller place, working 2 jobs to pay down his debts. 2 jobs. Sales during the day, bartending at night. He's trying, at least. Trying to clean up the mess. I thanked Hayes and ended our retainer arrangement. I didn't need updates anymore. Didn't need to know. They'd chosen their path. I'd chosen mine. Our stories had diverged, and that was that. Or so I thought. One evening in mid-September, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Dad, Christopher's voice, quiet, exhausted. It's me. I know I shouldn't call. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. But I wanted to tell you something. I waited. Jennifer and I are divorced. Final papers came through yesterday. She's gone. Moved to California last week. I'm sorry, I said. Automatic. The thing you say when someone tells you about a divorce. Don't be. It needed to happen. Should have happened years ago. He paused. I wanted you to know something else. About what she did. What we did. I've been thinking about it every day since we left your house. Christopher, no, please. Let me say this. I was weak. I let her manipulate me. But that's not an excuse. I made every choice. I took every step. I could have said no at any point, and I didn't. That's on me. His voice cracked slightly. You were right about everything. About her. About what we were doing. About all of it. And I threw away my relationship with my father for a woman who never really loved me, and money that was never mine. I sat down heavily in my desk chair, looked at my collection of legal documents, cases decided centuries ago by men who'd believed in justice. What are you going to do now? I asked. Keep working. Keep paying down the debts. Try to become someone I'm not ashamed of. Another pause. I'm not asking for anything, Dad. Not money, not forgiveness, not a relationship. I just wanted you to know that I understand what I lost, and why. The line went quiet, but he didn't hang up, neither did I. Understanding is the first step, I said finally. But it's only the first step. Trust is built over years and destroyed in seconds. You'd need a lot of time to prove you've changed. A lot of actions, not just words. I know. If, and it's a very big if, you actually do the work, actually become someone different, maybe someday we can talk, really talk. But that's years away, Christopher, if it happens at all. I know, he said again. Thank you for even saying that much. The call ended. I set down the phone and looked around my empty house. My safe, quiet, protected house. I'd won. Completely. They'd tried to destroy me, and I'd turned it back on them. Protected myself. Delivered justice. So why did victory feel so hollow? Because family wasn't supposed to end this way. With legal battles and evictions and cold phone calls acknowledging mutual destruction. But then again, family wasn't supposed to try to steal your life either. I got up and poured myself a drink, sat on my back patio, and watched the sun set over Phoenix. Justice had been served. The law had protected me. I'd done everything right, and now I had to live with what right had cost me. 6 months had passed since that final day when I'd watched Christopher drive away from my house. 6 months of quiet mornings and quieter evenings. 6 months of peace that sometimes felt more like emptiness. It was a Saturday morning in late October. I was in my study, cataloging a new addition to my collection, a court judgment from 1889, beautifully preserved. The law student I'd bought it from had no idea what she had. I'd paid her fairly anyway. My phone rang, Christopher's number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello? Dad? His voice was different, steadier. I'm calling to tell you something. I'm not asking for anything, just I wanted you to know. Go ahead. The divorce is final. Has been for a few weeks, but the last of the paperwork just cleared. Jennifer's in California. I'm never seeing her again. How do you feel about that? Relieved? Free? Like I can finally breathe. He paused. I've been working 2 jobs. Paid off $43,000 of debt in 6 months. Still have $84,000 to go, but I'm making progress. I did the math quickly. $43,000 in 6 months meant he was living on almost nothing, throwing every penny at those debts, working himself to exhaustion. That's good, I said carefully. I wanted you to know something else. I'm not the person I was when I lived in your house. I'm not the person who let Jennifer convince me to do what we did. I'm trying to be better, to be someone you might have been proud of once. Christopher, I know it's not enough. I know sorry doesn't fix anything. I know I can't undo what I did. His voice strengthened, but I'm not asking for forgiveness, not asking to be welcomed back. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About everything. And I was wrong. About everything. I sat back in my chair, looked at the framed court judgment on my desk. Justice served in 1889. Justice that had endured for over a century. I appreciate you telling me, I said. There's something else. Something you should know. He took a breath. I talked to a prosecutor last week about Serenity Springs. They're building cases against everyone involved. The facility owners are going to prison. That's guaranteed. But they're also looking at people who tried to use their services. My hand tightened on the phone. And they asked me about our involvement, about what Jennifer paid them, about what we tried to do. Another pause. I told them everything, Dad. Every detail. I gave them emails, text messages, bank records. Everything they asked for. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. Because other people got hurt. Because I need to own what I did, not hide from it. His laugh was bitter. The prosecutor said I probably won't face charges since we didn't go through with it. Jennifer might, though. They're still deciding. I thought about Jennifer in California, probably spending money she didn't have, probably already looking for the next easy target. The idea of her facing consequences felt right. Just. You did the right thing, I said. I'm trying to. Every day now. Trying to make different choices. He was quiet for a moment. I don't expect anything from you, Dad. Not forgiveness, not money, definitely not a relationship. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying. And I'll keep trying, whether you ever know about it or not. The call ended. I set down the phone and looked around my study, at my collection of legal documents, at the life I'd built and protected. Christopher was trying. Maybe it would last. Maybe he'd slip back into old patterns. Maybe Jennifer's poison was still in his system, waiting to resurface. Or maybe, just maybe, he'd actually change. I couldn't know. Wouldn't know for years. Trust took time. Decades, perhaps. But for the first time since this all began, I felt something other than anger or betrayal, or cold satisfaction. I felt possibility. Not reconciliation. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But possibility. The following week, I learned that Serenity Springs owners had been sentenced. 12 years for the primary operator, 8 years for his partner. Restitution ordered for all victims. Hayes called to tell me, pride evident in his voice. Justice, he said. Real, actual justice. Those people won't hurt anyone else for a very long time. Thank you, I said, for everything. For being there that day. For stopping me from signing. Just doing my job. Though I'm glad it was your case. You deserved better than what they tried to do to you. After he hung up, I walked through my house. My quiet, empty, safe house. The home I'd fought for. The life I'd protected. I'd won. Completely. Totally. The law had worked. Justice had prevailed. I still had my assets, my autonomy, my dignity. Christopher and Jennifer had lost everything. Their marriage, their home, their plans, their future together. That's what happened when you tried to steal someone's life. When you chose greed over love. When you mistook family for opportunity. I went to my study and pulled out the folder containing all the documents from this ordeal. The psychiatric evaluation proving my competence. The trust papers protecting my assets. The court judgment ordering the eviction. The APS report clearing me of all allegations. I'd kept them all. Not as trophies. Not as weapons. As reminders. Reminders that justice worked when you fought for it. That the law could protect you if you knew how to use it. That competence and preparation could defeat manipulation and greed. And reminders that family bonds, once broken, were nearly impossible to repair. I pulled out the last document, Judge Graham's order, dismissing Jennifer's challenge and upholding the eviction. The final legal word in this entire saga. I held it for a long moment, then filed it carefully in the folder with the others. Somewhere in Tempe, Christopher was probably working one of his two jobs, serving drinks or selling cars, paying down debt, trying to become someone different. Somewhere in California, Jennifer was probably spinning a new story, finding a new victim, planning a new con. And here I was, in my house on Desert Willow Drive, with my collection of legal documents and my quiet life and my victory that tasted like ashes and vindication in equal measure. I'd protected myself. I'd delivered justice. I'd won. The law had worked exactly as it should, and maybe, just maybe, I'd taught my son something about consequences, about choices, about the price of betrayal. Whether that lesson stuck was up to him. I closed the folder and returned it to its place in my desk drawer, poured myself a drink, sat in my study surrounded by centuries of legal history. Justice had been served, the right verdict delivered, the guilty punished, the innocent protected. 40 years on the bench had taught me many things, but the most important lesson wasn't about law or justice or procedure. It was this: the price of being right can be high, sometimes impossibly high. But when the alternative is surrendering your freedom, your dignity, your very life to people who see you as nothing more than an asset to exploit, you pay the price, and you live with what justice costs. I raised my glass to the empty room, to victory, to justice, to the law that had protected me when my own family had tried to destroy me, and to the possibility, distant, uncertain but real, that someday Christopher might earn back what he'd thrown away. Not today, not tomorrow, maybe not for years, but possibility was enough for now. If you like this story, subscribe to our new channel and listen to a few stories there. You can find the link to it in the collaboration or description of this video, or in the comments. Subscribe so you don't lose us, because this channel may soon cease to exist.